Pompeii is well known for being a city frozen in time. But in ancient Rome, Pompeii was just another seaside market town. Today, it is one of Italy's most popular tourist destinations, attracting millions of visitors. Ironically, getting wiped off the map put Pompeii on the map. Pompeii offers a comprehensive look at Roman life, from its fast food restaurants to personal relationships and lifestyles. So, how much do you know about Pompeii? Test your knowledge as we count down 5 mind-blowing facts about Pompeii. Number 5. It is covered in graffiti. Pompeii is a popular tourist spot, attracting roughly 2.5 million sightseers each year. So it might seem inevitable that the city would have its fair share of graffiti. However, in this instance, graffiti is part of the city's heritage rather than an issue with unruly visitors. Far from being an unwelcome eyesore, Pompeii's graffiti helps us get a tantalizing glimpse at the everyday lives of the ancient Romans. Since Pompeii was uncovered, the elements have faded around 90% of the graffiti that adorned the outside walls. However, it was carefully recorded and cataloged by scholars in the 1800s. Today, most of the graffiti that remains is what was etched into internal walls. These scratched messages would have stood out more than they do today, as the walls would have been colorfully painted, and the graffiti would have revealed the white plaster underneath the paint. Graffiti was thought of differently in ancient Rome, where it was a respected form of writing. This method of communication was often interactive, and many examples have been found inside private homes, which include greetings from friends, snippets of poetry, and drawings. Politics was another popular subject for graffiti artists in Pompeii. Another large portion of graffiti was spreading goodwill. And a popular phrase for these graffitists was Feliciter Pompeii, which wished the whole city well. While some of Pompeii's graffiti could be seen as being of a better class than today, others have a pretty familiar ring. One inscription above a bench outside Marina Gate reads, "If anyone sits here, let him read this first of all. If anyone wants a screw, he should look for Attice. She costs 4 sesterti." Another, at the gladiators' barracks, reads, "Antiochus hung out here with his girlfriend Chitera." Some graffiti at the Inn of the Mule Drivers states, "We have wet the bed, host. I confess we have done wrong." If you want to know why, there was no chamber pot. So while the acceptance of graffiti may have changed since ancient Rome, people have stayed pretty much the same. Number 4. It was once a Greek city. Pompeii has to be one of the most famous Roman cities, so it's strange to think that it was once Greek, especially due to its position on the west coast of Italy. However, Greek settlements in Italy were common in the 8th century BCE. Pompeii was probably founded around this time by the Oscans, a pre-Roman Italic tribe. Greek colonists had established towns in the region, and it wasn't long before the Oscans began showing Greek influence, adopting their culture and religion. Evidence of this Greek influence can be seen in the Doric Temple, which is located in the triangular form. Around 414 BCE, the city came under the control of another Italic tribe called the Etruscans, but soon came back under Greek influence. This influence can be seen in Pompeii's art, such as the Alexander mosaic and the Three Graces fresco, as well as its architecture. Pompeii's basilica features 2 levels of Grecian columns rather than Roman arches to support the roof. Other Greek elements can be seen in the large palaestra, the use of insulae to divide the roads, and the peristyle featured in several private buildings. Pompeii passed from Grecian to Italic influence and back again until the advancement of Rome. The Romans started to war with the Italian tribes until around 290 BCE, and Pompeii eventually came under Roman control. Number 3. The bodies that are displayed are actually plaster casts. Some of the most iconic images from Pompeii are the petrified bodies of unlucky citizens who could not escape when Mount Vesuvius erupted. However, these fascinating forms are actually plaster casts. In 1870, archaeologists excavated sites in Pompeii, uncovering cavities within the soil and ash that once held remains. The porous ash hardened to a shell around the body, so an impression remained as the soft tissue decayed. To try and preserve these forms, Giuseppe Fiorelli used a technique based on filling the holes with liquid plaster. Once the plaster hardened, the surrounding soil was removed, leaving a cast of the body or object that was once there. In 2015, archaeologists used CT scans to see inside the casts. revealing the bones and teeth of the bodies inside. These scans have been able to identify the age and features of the remains. Most of the findings refute the stories that have been attributed to the bodies in the past. The Victorians were obsessed with the macabre, and the discovery of Pompeii set their imaginations aflame. Stories inspired by the bodies circulated, including one about a pregnant mother and another concerning two maidens in love. But both of these stories have been debunked by the CT scans, and the two maidens were revealed to be two men. The CT scans also revealed that most Pompeiians had remarkably healthy teeth. These winning smiles would have resulted from their well-balanced diet free from processed sugar. Still, many speculate that the water near Mount Vesuvius would have been naturally high in fluoride, which may have contributed to maintaining their pearly whites. In today's excavations of Pompeii, archaeologists are trying to avoid using this casting technique, as it damages the fragile remains that could otherwise be studied. In 1984, epoxy resin was used to try and gain more insight into what lay within the cavities. This transparent cast meant that jewels and other items the person was carrying could be seen, as well as the victim's hair, complete with a hairpin. However, the resin cast was only used on one individual, as it was difficult to make and too expensive to be a viable alternative to the plaster. The casts give us a fascinating glimpse of the people caught in a terrifying natural disaster. Because of this technique, we have been able to see the clothes and facial expressions of these people who died nearly 2,000 years ago. Number 2. Pompeii didn't have the best reputation. Today, Pompeii is known worldwide, but it was not that famous before the disaster, to which it is now intrinsically linked. In the ancient world, Pompeii was merely a market and trading town specializing in garum, a fish-based condiment. While it was considered a holiday resort town with its brothels, beaches, and fast food restaurants, it wasn't exactly renowned throughout the empire. When Pompeii did come to national attention, it was not for the best reasons. Pompeii sported the earliest known permanent amphitheater in the Roman world. Two town officials built this theater to enhance their power and prestige. The amphitheater could hold around 20,000 people and served the surrounding area as well as Pompeii. As attested by the city's graffiti, gladiatorial games were very popular. In 59 CE, Pompeii came to the attention of Emperor Nero when a riot erupted in the amphitheater. Pompeiians and the people of a nearby colony called Nuceria attended the gladiatorial games together. Some local animosity was already present, possibly over land allotments given to veteran soldiers who Nero had allowed to settle in the area, and there is evidence of other inter-town rivalries. One graffito near a brothel states, "Good fortune to the Puteolans. Good luck to the Nucerians. The executioners hooked to Pompeiians." The riot itself was large and violent enough to gain notoriety for Pompeii. According to Tacitus, inter-town rivalry led to abuse, then stone throwing, then the drawing of weapons. The Pompeiians, in whose town the show was being given, came off the better. Therefore, many of the Nucerians were carried to Rome having lost limbs, and many were bereaved of parents and children. This riot resulted in Nero banning games at the Pompeian amphitheater for 10 years. Number 1. We have an eyewitness account of the destruction of Pompeii. It is hard to imagine what it would be like to witness an entire city being engulfed by a volcano. But we don't actually need to imagine it. 2 letters survive that detail exactly what happened that day. Pliny the Younger was only 17 or 18 and stayed at a Misenum villa with his mother and uncle. Now known as Myceno, Pliny's home sat across the Bay of Naples and looked towards the mainland in direct sight of Pompeii. Pliny's uncle was Gaius Plinius Secundus, also known as Pliny the Elder, a naval and army commander who perished in the disaster, and Pliny's letters were intended to detail his uncle's death. Pliny states that his mother first saw an unusual cloud and wanted her brother to see it. Pliny describes the cloud as looking like a pine tree, for it shot up to a great height in the form of a very tall trunk, which spread itself out at the top into a sort of branches. Pliny the Elder was a naturalist, author, and soldier, and the cloud intrigued him to the extent that he wanted to get a closer look. Pliny then made a decision that likely saved his life. He writes that his uncle gave me leave if I liked to accompany him. I said I'd rather go on with my work. Just as Pliny the Elder was about to leave, he received a note from a woman whose villa lay at the bottom of Mount Vesuvius. Knowing the danger she was in, she pleaded with Pliny the Elder to help her escape, saying the only way out would be by sea. Knowing that many lives might be lost, Pliny the Elder ordered the galleys to put to sea and set out to save as many people as he could. Pliny the Younger then describes the attempted rescue mission, which resulted in his uncle's death. In his second letter, Pliny the Younger describes what he and his mother went through. He recalls the earth trembling for many days, which was not uncommon, but that night was so particularly violent that it not only shook but actually overturned everything about us. However, they still did not realize their danger, and it was only at the urging of a friend that Pliny and his mother evacuated their house. Outside, a panic-stricken crowd observed, "The sea seemed to roll back and forth upon itself. The shore was considerably enlarged, and several sea animals were left upon it. On the other side, a black and dreadful cloud, broken with rapid, zigzag flashes, revealed behind it variously shaped masses of flame. These last were like sheet lightning, but much larger." As they fled the scene, the ashes now began to fall upon us. A dense, dark mist seemed to be following us. They decided to get out of the road for fear of being trampled when night came upon us, not such as we have when the sky is cloudy or when there is no moon, but that of a room when it is shut up. When the cloud had passed, they found everything covered deep with ashes as if with snow. Of course, they could not have imagined the true horror experienced by the people in Pompeii. Historians have no reason to doubt any of what Pliny claims. However, there is now some debate on the date. Pliny states the eruption date to be 24th of August, but many excavations have uncovered people in heavy woolen clothing, which would be more reminiscent of a cooler time of year. These findings have led some historians to believe that the eruption happened in October or November. Of course, it may be that the inhabitants grabbed their heavy clothes as protection against the falling ash or as a warm layer against the chill of the night. We may never know the exact circumstances of the eruption, but the physical and literary information we have puts this disaster into sharp focus, perhaps more than any other event that occurred at the time. Have you visited Pompeii, or do you have a mind-blowing fact that we didn't include? Let us know in the comments below. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Pompeii, check out our book, Pompeii, a captivating guide to the city in ancient Rome that was buried because of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius during the rule of the Roman Empire. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.